See if we can lose our GoPro Max on the freeway. Shouldn't be a problem. All right, GoPro Max mount, 70 miles an hour. Let's see what happens here. Checking for 7th gear. I don't have one. Get some handlebar heat going here, or grip heat, something, some kind of heat. Okay, so today we're on the Kawasaki Versys 300, and I wanted to do a video and talk about this bike versus the Himalayan. When people see that I own both, it's the first question out of the mouth: which one do you like better? You really can't like one better. They do almost everything equally well. I think the Himalayan is a little bit better off-road, although this is an amazing off-road bike. Don't buy this or look at it as purely a street bike, because it does really well off-road. Of course, with not having a full frame, your motor is exposed in the front, but there's skid plates for that. But as far as one being better, I don't like either one better. I like certain things about this bike, and I like certain things about the Himalayan. One thing I like about this bike is it's Japanese, so you know, right out the bat, Kawasaki, its reliability really can't be questioned. They're pretty amazing. It doesn't have, it feels super light compared to the Himalayan, and I think it's maybe 50 pounds lighter, so that's probably why. Power wise, the Versys is definitely faster on the street. It's polar opposites though, as far as the engine operation on the freeway. This guy, as you saw, is probably revving to 8,000–9,000 RPM at 80 miles an hour, whereas the Himalayan's tapped out at 50, 58. The fact that this will actually do 80 to 90 miles an hour, though, is a plus, right? If you're in California and you find yourself needing to go that fast, or other places where freeway traffic is faster than the national average, just put it that way. So yeah, at 70 miles an hour, you still have a little power left with this guy. It's 40 horsepower, so to scoot along, get out of the way, make a pass, etc. The Himalayan, you know, for off-road, the Himalayan has a 21-inch front wheel, and I think that helps give it the nod for off-road handling. This has a 19-inch on the front. All those gears. I short shifted. I don't rev the hell out of it. There's no point. But I'm always checking for 7th gear. I'm so used to riding the Africa Twin and the Himalayan, it feels like it's revving to the moon right now. So like, look at that. It's 5,000 RPM. The Himalayan's about done at this RPM. So anyway, one of the negative aspects to the Versys is the valve adjustment. The valve adjustment and the oil needs to be changed at 7,000 miles. So if you're one of those guys that wants to stick religiously to the manual and do things when you're supposed to do things, and you don't have the ability to do it yourself, the valve adjustment on this bike is very labor intensive. I've heard people paying over $1,500 for an oil change and a valve adjustment at 7,000 miles. The reason for that is the Versys has a shim under bucket valve lash adjustment. What that means is the valve in the head has a shim on top of it that's a certain thickness, and that's the piece you swap out. And on top of that shim there's a bucket, and the cam is on top of the bucket, and the cam pushes on the bucket, which pushes on the shim, which opens the valve, etc., as the cam rotates. So if you find yourself out of adjustment, you have to remove the camshafts. I know a lot of people probably aren't comfortable with that. So you literally have to remove the camshafts, pull up the bucket, grab the shim, mic it or read it if it's still readable, and grab the next shim, either thicker or thinner, to make the adjustment. Put it all back together, check it, and hopefully it's right. If it's not, take it all back apart again, and you know, rinse and repeat until your valve lash is correct. What the hell is that guy doing? So yeah, I mean, that's why they charge so much. You know, they'll check your valves for X dollars, but if it needs to be adjusted, they want bigger X's in front of those dollars. So that's something to keep in mind. I know a lot of people look at that and go, okay, it's only a $6,000 bike. 7,000 miles, I'm going to pay $1,500 plus to have the oil change and have the valves adjusted. So if I ride a lot, and a lot, I mean, you know, 14,000 a year, if I can't do the work myself, I'm looking at 3,000 plus in just valve adjustment costs a year. Then people look at that and go, well, hell, in 2.5 years I could just buy a new bike. And you know, that's a way to look at it. I mean, it's a gamble you can take, and I know there's quite a few people doing that. Personally, I'm going to this bike only has what, 2,000 miles on it, I think. It doesn't get ridden very much. I'm going to check the valves at whatever, 10,000, adjust if necessary, check them again at 10,000, and that'll probably be it. I doubt this bike will ever see 30,000 miles, because unless my wife, you know, decides she wants to start riding on the street again. She's pretty happy on her dirt bike, so I'm using it as a commuter. Yay, water pose. We get my wife's bike dirty. So yeah, so that's the negative to owning the Versys over the Himalayan. Himalayan valve adjustment can be done typically by most owners in an hour. That's not the case on this bike. All other costs on the bikes are probably similar. Everybody's in a hurry today. I'm going 55 and the speed limit here is 45. That guy is late for a job. But yeah, so all other costs, maintenance wise, are probably similar. I would imagine tires, brakes, everything else is very similar. Mileage, similar, 60 to 70 per gallon, US gallon. I think what it's going to come down to, if you're debating between this bike and a Versys, or sorry, this bike and a Himalayan, is which one you like as far as looks, because that's the true difference, right? One's retro, air-cooled. This one's a Ninja 300 with dirt bike tires on it and wheels and a lot of plastic. Some people hate plastic. I don't hate anything really. Got a monkey or Z1 or Z175 or something. I don't know. Little guy. I personally like the styling on this bike. I had a Versys 650, the goofy looking one from 2009, the first year it came out. I bought it because it was goofy looking. I mean, people buy things based on looks, obviously, especially in America. I found that bike kind of blah compared to this bike. I don't know why. It was a good bike, don't get me wrong. Me and my boys and my brother, we rode it. It was kind of the spare bike. It was the redheaded stepchild, you know. Nobody wanted to take ownership, but every once in a while you'd ride it. I don't know. It was a good bike. It handled great. It sucked off-road horribly, way worse than this bike. Too much weight on the front wheel on that bike, and the front wheel would just auger in and wash out, and over you would go at the slightest mistake. It just, and I know a lot of people ride them off-road and they're gonna be like, oh no, that's not true. It is true. So yeah, you can do anything as far as taking bikes off-road. I rode my ST1300 off-road. Was it a good off-road bike? No. Was it an okay dirt road bike? Yeah, as long as the road was smooth. And you know, I had reverse, which means my wife could get off and push me backwards if I needed it. But just because you can do something doesn't mean it's good at doing it. This Versys is literally good off-road. It's pretty crazy how good it is. You just got, I guess, got to take my word for it. But you can watch plenty of YouTube videos of people taking this off-road on BDRs, single tracks. I wouldn't do a single track because I don't like taking a bike with this design that doesn't have a frame underneath the engine on the super rough stuff, because you know, a bad log or a bad stump or a bad rock's gonna end your bike, and literally it would end this bike, because a motor would cost more than this bike's worth, I'm sure. And if you don't have the ability to swap the motor out yourself, then definitely bike sold. Hopefully Honda has that figured out with their Transalp. I noticed it basically is a Hornet with spoke wheels and adventure tires on it and different plastics. No frame under the engine, but they do have a skid plate on it, it looks like. This bike doesn't come with a skid plate. It comes with a piece of plastic that's about, oh, I don't know, 1/16 of an inch thick. It doesn't do anything, it's just for looks. There are some skid plates on the market for this bike. I think Ricochet makes one. There's several others. There's some Chinese made one that, you know, that's one area where you're kind of getting what you pay for. I have someone gave me a Chinese made skid plate for a KLX 300, and you could literally grab that thing and bend it. It was like layers of tinfoil pressed together. It was kind of comical. Needless to say, it's not on my bike. I cut it up and made a template out of it. So be careful when buying skid plates from China. So we've got a windshield added to this. We've got a ram ball mount under the windshield. We got my inReach there. We got this auxiliary bar here bolted on for a phone mount. We've got heated grips. We've got cheap knockoff handguards just to block the wind off, so the Oxford heated grips don't have to work as hard. What else have we done to this bike? It's got the stock seat. The seat, most people will find that it sucks. It's an hour seat at the most, kind of like the Himalayan. After an hour, you got to take a break. I ride a lot, so I'm not as picky about seats. I think that has a lot to do with seats being comfortable or not. It's spending time on that seat, getting your butt in shape for it, or your whole body. But you know what I'm saying. I have other modifications on this. I have the mirrors, and let's see. Moving back, we have GV or Givy, however you want to pronounce it. Pannier racks and top case rack. Dim out trunk and panniers on this guy. Looks a little stinky up here at 2,500 feet, or however high we are, 3,000 maybe. I also have Shinko 804 805s on this guy, which are an amazing tire for a bike this size. I really think I'm going to put him on the Himalayan next. On the street, you can't tell that you have an off-road tire on this bike. And in the dirt, they dig pretty good. Some reviews of them on higher powered bikes, such as the Africa Twin, I guess it's if you wick the throttle with the Shinko on the back, the 804, the tire likes to kick out for some reason, and it's probably because of the block pattern that has no chevron to it. So, you know, stability wise in the dirt, as far as an acceleration, it wobbles around a bit. But on bikes that don't have the power to you know, plow a field with the rear tire, they do really well. I mean, that could be a matter too of adjusting your riding style, right? Don't whack the throttle if you know the ass end's going to kick out. They're affordable. Both tires are less than $100 bucks. Should I go around this guy? I think so. So the road was closed this weekend. It's under construction. It's going to be interesting to see what they've done, or if they did anything. Yeah, these tires on the street, these are like literally street bike tires. Pretty amazing. I don't know how they would be in the cold, wet. It's cold right now, but they're dry. I don't think I'd push it too hard. You're up on that block pattern on the side that has a pretty wide groove that separates the center blocks from the edge, the blocks on the edge. You might find that a little squirrely if you had it cranked way over, but I don't know. I'm kind of past those days of riding like that. Just not needed. I mean, me and my wife took off, did a loop around the Grand Canyon last year, and I don't know that I ever rode over 70 miles an hour. Most of the time we were actually at 60 or under on back roads, you know. I picked a route that was all 2-lane back roads, no traffic. It was awesome. Well, there was traffic in Oatman. If you've ever been to Oatman, there's donkeys everywhere. I mean, literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of donkeys walking around. And they park their butts right in the middle of the road sometimes. So the speed limit on that highway section through Oatman is, I think, 25 miles an hour for good reason. It's very twisty, more so than this. And you can come around this corner and there could be donkeys sitting or standing in the road. You know, I don't know. When we were younger, we always picked on old guys for going slow, right? And it's not that I can't go faster. It's just that I don't see the point anymore. I want to look at things and see what's going on with what limited time we have left here on this spaceship. Let's start taking some things in. Probably should have done that 20 years ago. But anyway, so maybe that's what that old guy in that car is doing in front of you. He's just enjoying the ride or the drive. Hell, it could be Mario Andretti for all you know. I nicknamed him Crash back in the day. But anyway. So we got the GoPro Max up there doing some 360 video. So hopefully that works out. This will be pretty cool. See if I can time it up. You know, peace sign, 360 video. The other thing people ask about when comparing these two bikes is the reliability of the Royal Enfield. I don't think the Royal Enfield reliability, especially the US market versions of the bike, are as bad as its reputation worldwide. The US has, you know, the bikes that are exported and imported into the US have better frames, have better rear racks. There's one other thing that are different. That's different, sorry. I forget what it is. So, you know, we're not really struggling with the broken, cracked frame, and here's that chip seal I was talking about that the rest of the world did, you know, with the 17, 18s, 19s. And every year they keep getting better. In 22, we got Enfields that had better rear racks, and they were modified for, I think, North American use. People with longer legs. The side racks on the tanks were modified so that you have more knee room. And the 22s and maybe the 21s, some of them had software issues in the ECU where they had cold start issues. They would start and die, start and die, start and die, start and die. Sometimes they would flame out even after they were warmed up. There have been people that, you know, fell down because of that. I don't know why it took so long for Royal Enfield to recognize that there was a problem, or maybe they knew there was a problem and I don't know, they wanted it to go away. But anyway, so now they have a fix, and any Royal Enfield dealer can reflash your ECU if you're having flame outs or cold start problems, and the difference is amazing. If you're a do-it-yourselfer, you can also try some home tricks. One of them is adjust the throttle position sensor voltage. One thing new owners notice on this bike is, you can see it there, my phone might be in the way, the temperature gauge on these. Can you see it there? Yeah. It reads a little high. Even when all the bars are filled, obviously it's kind of, you know, an attention getter because you can't measure any higher than all the way hot. But I think someone's actually tested the temperature of the coolant when the bike is showing all bars, and it's still not really overheating. I think the gauge is off a little bit. So if you're just doing that in the summertime, it might be considered normal, as long as it's not doing it while you're moving forward at a good pace. Looks like the GoPro's still going. So it makes a lot of noise and screams really loud at you. But if you notice the miles per hour, it's not really going any faster than the Himalayan, or at least my Himalayan. Mine runs a little better than normal with its carburetor kit. The Ninja comes out. So there's your big difference. This over the Himalayan. When you get this Ninja motor revved up, she goes, and she goes good. You just have to adapt and don't be afraid to let it sing, because that's what it does. That's probably why the valve adjustment